Hi, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Indira, and today I'm rejoined by Kate Axford. It's been quite a year for Kate. She's knocked off more seconds than I can say of all of her PBs. She's also taken her first podium spot at a British Champs, competed abroad, and become a professional athlete with Kip Run. So, there's definitely a lot to talk about. We also close out with some discussion around the media attention and how it can impact how people feel about themselves and their bodies in the sport. Okay, as always, before we get into the episode, please be sure to give a rating if you've been enjoying the show. It helps bring credibility to the podcast so I can keep bringing you guys the guests you want to hear from. Okay, let's get into the episode. Hi, Kate, how are you? And welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Indira. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, just living the life in Font at the moment, which is really nice. Feel very lucky to be here. But yeah, no, I'm good.
Good. No, that's great. That's what we love to hear. And Font sounds like a brilliant place. And how's the weather at the moment there?
The weather's been good actually. I think we've been quite lucky. There's been a few like very misty mornings, which is fine until you try to start running and you're like, I can't see my fingers in front of me, kind of thing. But yeah, no. Apart from that, we've been quite lucky. It's sunny at the moment, so I've just spent the day horizontal after my long run, to be honest, just like everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. It's the long run kind of hits hard when you do it in the morning. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, every week, I think it's going to get easier, and it never does.
yeah, how long's the long run at the moment?
At the moment, I'm running for about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's usually around, I want to say like 14 miles, maybe a bit more. Basically, it just depends on how fast I run. And sometimes I feel good and sometimes I feel dreadful. So it's like, it's just really slow. But you know what? It's fun.
Yeah, well, I have to say 1 hour 45 can't be the best on a bad day. That's definitely a long time.
Yeah, it's a mental battle sometimes. But no, we're all good. We're all good.
Good. And you a soloer for the long run, or have you got kind of a big group?
So I think I came out here a little bit earlier than a lot of people. So the long run today was really lovely because I was joined by quite a few people, which was brilliant. But yeah, the couple of weeks before that, I've just been hammering out on my own, which is fine. But you know, it's nice. It's always nice to have company for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's makes the time go faster, and definitely we can sort of talk a bit more about kind of the Font training style, lifestyle, athlete situation up there as we get into things. But kind of let's crack things off with, a few kind of quick questions. So for you, what's the best moment of your week been so far?
The best moment of my week has probably been I had an unbelievable pizza last night, and I actually think that's been the highlight of my week. So, yeah, I did. I had a big day yesterday training wise, and I finished with a pizza, and I was in heaven. It was brilliant. Yeah, I think that's probably the best moment of the week so far for sure.
Oh no, love that. A good pizza definitely hits the spot. And what sort of pizza do you go for?
I do tend to play it safe, and I go for a vegetarian just because I'm like, you know what? It's actually I'm not going to get hit by any kind of like weird meat situation that I don't want. So I just yeah, I'm not as plain as margarita, but I just spice it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, veggie's the way to go, and I totally get you there. Meat on pizza can be. I feel like that's where a bit of dodgy
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, it's hit and miss. It can be hit and miss, so I just tend to avoid it. But
Yeah, no, love that. Okay, and most bizarre thing that's happened to you this week?
most bizarre thing, probably, probably I was driving back from a run. Well, it must have been yesterday as well. A lot of things happened yesterday. And there were just this massive, I don't even know what you call a group of sheep, a flock, I'm not sure. Anyway, just on the road with no one around them, no one leading them. There's just going to be some really angry farmer somewhere who's realized that all his sheep are now in the middle of like, it's a pretty fast road as well. Nobody's driving slowly. So yeah, that was interesting. Had to avoid them, but it's just quite funny to see, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely not ideal for the farmer, and yeah, a bit of a challenge for driving, I can imagine.
Yeah, just a dud.
Okay, and what's your favorite running shoe at the moment?
My favorite running shoe at the moment is probably the shoe that I do my sessions in, which is the Kip Run Carbon, like race shoe, which I think you can get. I think it's available, but I actually use a prototype version of it, which I just really like. So that's my favorite shoe at the moment. Um, so yeah, it's just very springy, very light, makes me feel like I can run a lot faster, which is always good and probably needed at altitude as well when I feel like I'm so slow.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's definitely a factor. Do you feel like carbon makes up for kind of the altitude effect or
Not quite. I think the altitude effect just always overtakes anything else. But no, it certainly does help. Like just putting them on before a session, even if it's just a bit of a mental thing as well. You feel like you're ready to actually do the session, like run a bit faster. Um, and yeah, I always find that I prefer like doing sessions in carbon shoes. It's not for everyone, but yeah, no, I like it.
yeah, well, hopefully they'll turn that shoe into a full kind of production situation instead of a prototype. But no, that's great to hear, and we'll definitely have to talk about the whole kip run situation later on as well. And if you had to pick an animal that you think best represents you, what would you choose and why?
Oh gosh, this is hard. I think what would I choose? I actually think I'd go for a specific breed of dog, and I'd probably go for like a spaniel, like a Springer Spaniel, just because I feel like I can be quite chaotic at times, but I'll like always just work hard. I think that's probably that's probably what I'd say I was like. Just a little bit crazy, but at the same time, like happy to just kind of get on and run around and do my thing. So yeah, that's probably
Ah,
me.
oh, I love that, and it sounds perfect kind of for a runner as well. So seems like a good match there. Okay. And what's your favorite season for running?
Summer's definitely my favorite season. I'm a fair weather person. Like I don't mind the cold, I don't mind the rain, but I just there's something about doing a session on the track, especially when it gets to summer, that just I just don't know. I feel like I prefer it so much more to longer runs, like in the rain, and the cold. So yeah, definitely summer.
Yeah, it's definitely something nice about running in summer, especially when you're in sort of shorts and t-shirt and you kind of just like light and bouncy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Are you what do you do if there's kind of a massive downpour or really bad weather? Are you gonna go out there and slog it, or do you have a sort of plan B kind of situation?
Um, to be honest, I'll usually just go out. I think my mindset is like once you're wet, then there's not much you can do about it. So you just kind of have to get on with it. But it's more if it's like really windy. If it's really, really windy and I'm trying to do like, I don't know, a tempo session, then that's something that I know I can do on the treadmill. So I'll probably just be a bit pathetic and go inside and go on the treadmill because why not? But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no treadmill running. That's an interesting one you bring up there. What do you kind of feel like the effects of treadmills are versus kind of outside? Do you think you can get similar benefit? Are you a fan of using the treadmill?
I think that for me, the treadmill is quite good if I've got longer reps where I can basically, like, I know what pace I need to be running and I can kind of just plug it in and then off I go. And it makes it a bit more mindless, like you're not thinking so much. But yeah, I mean, I used to prefer it a lot more than I do now. I think I prefer running outside and doing my sessions outside, even if it's a bit like even if the weather's not great or there's some hills or whatever it is. I think it prepares you slightly better for the conditions you'll probably get in a lot of races, especially in England. So yeah, it's got its benefits for sure, but I tend to just make sure I don't spend too much time on it. Otherwise, I could think you can get used to it, and then you're a bit like, oh, I don't understand what it is to run outside anymore.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of it's a little bit of a difference between the two, and definitely have to adapt a bit when you do kind of switch from outside to the treadmill for sure. And so, to kind of bring anyone up to speed, or for new listeners, let's kind of talk through some of your changes. So, we last spoke in September of 2023, so it's been pretty much a year, but in your case, it's been quite a year. Um,
Yeah.
so I've got down, you've joined Kip Run, become a full-time professional athlete, massive 1500 PB from 423 to 408, massive 3000 PB from 906 to 852, massive 5000 PB from 1549 to 1519, third at British Indoors, third at British Trials for cross country at Liverpool, and you've been racing internationally. Is there anything else that I've not caught on there?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much, yeah, got it all. It does feel a bit weird that it was a year ago that that this has all happened in a year. And it's definitely taken a lot of kind of getting used to and learning new things. But yeah, no, I don't think you've missed anything there, to be honest.
Oh, no. I mean, yeah, some absolutely incredible progress. And it's funny, it kind of feels like you've been around and at the top for a really long time, but it really is only kind of the last 2 years, and especially the last year where you've made these leaps forward. It definitely has happened really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, yeah, like just the racing abroad and things like that as well. It's all just a different experience and different dynamic, and essentially life looks a bit different now, which is lovely.
Yeah, for sure. And I gotta throw it in there. Do you miss hockey at all?
You know what? I actually don't at all, and I think that's probably the best thing I could have, like the way I could be feeling about it. I also have a brother and sister who still play hockey, and a lot of it. So if I ever kind of want to go watch, then I can go and watch, and it's really nice. And I can go watch some of my friends as well when they play. But I think the fact that I've now found running definitely helps me to not miss hockey at all, to be honest. I don't think I haven't picked up a hockey stick since I left the Great Britain program. So it's been a clean, just leave it and on to the next kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's best decision ever, to be honest.
No, that's great to hear. That's what we love to hear. Positive decisions, positive feelings. So no, that's really, really great. And I guess if we sort of walk through kind of the journey over the past few years to start off with. So, notably you were third at the British cross country trials, for the European Championships. That was, I suppose, maybe your first major kind of cross country success.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk us through kind of what that was like? But also, you didn't then race at the European Cross Country Championships. So, what was kind of the decision for that?
Yeah, so I mean, the I did the short course at Liverpool, so you can do the short course or the long course, and I chose to do the short course. I think probably there were lots of factors to that decision, but at the time I think there was a lot going on outside running, and I was just a bit like, you know what, I'm not sure I can mentally like face a 9K cross country. Like I'm not there yet. So I did the short course and I came third. And unfortunately, I mean, fortunately for obviously the two girls who came in ahead of me who had great runs, they select two to then go and run the relay at the Europeans. So I was on the subs bench for that one. But yeah, to be honest, I think it was a good experience, but I'm probably happier now knowing that hopefully I can kind of have another go at Liverpool in whenever it is. November. That's it. November, and hopefully try it and make that team. And that would be a really like a fun thing to do for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no doubts that you can't achieve that. And would you be going for the full course this time around, or the relay still?
I think I'll probably have a stab at the full course. Just yeah, I think I'm trying to run fast in grass that's kind of like that soggy and wet and horrible is just not a fun experience. So yeah, I'll try and have a go at something a little bit longer, which should be fun and a good like challenge for me as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always think with the longer races, you get better sort of value for time, value for money kind of situation. It lasts longer.
Exactly. It lasts longer. It's probably slightly more painful, but you know what? Never mind. They all are. So
Yeah, it only means you feel better after. So, it's a win-win situation, really.
exactly.
And okay, so you then kind of moved on to sort of having a bit of an indoor season, mainly focusing on the 3000, and you kicked that off firstly with a World Athletics indoor tour. What was kind of the game plan at that stage, kind of looking into the 2024 season?
Um, I think, to be honest, the game plan at that point was just to get some experience of racing an indoor race because I knew that I was in good shape to race a 3K, but I had never done an indoor race, and I had done, I think, one training session on an indoor track before that. So it was very new. I think also it was the first time. I can't remember whether it was the first time, but it was definitely one of the few times that I'd travelled abroad to race. So that was in itself like quite a new experience, and quite funny. Just like sharing a room with, I think I shared a room with a Madagascan hurdler who didn't, it was such a bizarre experience, but it was quite funny. So yeah, it's all just kind of, it was all learning. I had a bit of a bad race. I think the pacing was very bizarre at that one. So it was I basically learned exactly what not to do, which then stood me in good stead for the rest of the season. But sometimes you've got to have those races where you just go, that was awful, but actually I now know what I need to do in the next one to make it better. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nothing's ever lost, nothing's ever wasted. And that's definitely really interesting to hear. I didn't realize they paired you up with people from just different events and countries.
yep, it is so bizarre. And I think we all had flights at different times home, and I think hers was at 1 a.m. So I just, I was kind of asleep and she was leaving 2 hours after she got in from the race. It was honestly just, it was hilarious. And at the end, I was like, I've got to laugh, otherwise I think I might cry. So yeah, it's just the European circuit though. I think sometimes you just have some really weird experiences. But they make for funny stories afterwards, so it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. That does sound like kind of something out of maybe a film or a series type of vibes there for sure.
Yeah.
And how do you sort of go about entering these kind of European circuit races, or at this point, had Kip Run come in?
So no, Kip Run hadn't come in at this point. I have my agent who is called Lauren Williams, and she is great and basically would help me get into all of these races, which yeah was, I mean, really helpful for me. I think just to make the next step of racing some people who weren't on the domestic circuit. Um, so yeah, it was really good actually to have that experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess moving on from that, you then went into the British Champs, where you finished a fantastic third. What did that race mean to you at the time?
Yeah, so coming third at the indoor British Champs was, I think, probably one of my favourite races that I've done. I went in, I went in with confidence, but no kind of expectations of what was going to happen. I knew that the field was very strong. Obviously, people like Laura, Muir Racing, Hannah, Nuttall, along with like Amy Eloise, Neil was there as well. So like really high quality field. And I was a bit like, you know what, I'll just have a go, see what happens, try and hang with that bunch if they go. Which they did, unsurprisingly. And so yeah, I mean, the fact that I managed to come third in that was a real, I feel like it was a bit of a turning point in terms of my confidence, just to be like, you know what, I can do, like I can do these things and I can kind of compete at that kind of high level. So yeah, it was really cool. I had my parents there watching as well, who it's taken them a while to adjust from not seeing me on a hockey pitch, but that was that was a really special moment for them as well, I think. So it was just a great day. I had a blast.
No, that's great to hear. Were there any other things that kind of made it a great day aside from the race itself?
I think just seeing like everybody, I think just having the support from everyone in my club at Belgrave, but also from hockey, the number of my kind of ex teammates and coaches who were reaching out and who actually watched it as well. I couldn't believe how many people actually watched it. And they were kind of just sending me messages saying well done and that they were watching, and like that for me is just really special, because to know that you have that kind of support from people that you don't see every day anymore is, yeah, it's a really, really nice feeling.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's really great to hear. And talking of support, at what point did Kip Run then kind of enter your year?
So Kip Run, I actually signed with Kip Run in April of this year, so 2024. They had kind of reached out before that, and were, yeah, just a very, obviously they're quite a new brand. And I'm quite kind of new to the new to the running world as well, so it felt like a really good fit. And yeah, I mean they've been super supportive of me this year, and yeah, just made life for me really easy. Being able to step away from work as well has been massive, and they've kind of supported me to be able to do that. So it's, yeah, I mean they've been fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. And definitely, being able to devote your time fully to running has, well, clearly had some benefits, it would seem. And from that point of view, then, so you talk about stepping back from work. Did you immediately notice many changes in particular once the job kind of went, or, was it kind of a slow and gradual process? And how did you find adapting to being full time in running?
So I think I adapted quite well, but because I'd had the experience of being full time with hockey before that, it didn't feel like such a weird kind of life change. It kind of felt like I was going full circle and coming back to what I'd been doing before. Um, so I think that definitely helped me feel more at ease with the move. Um, but also just having support from my job that I was in at the time. They knew that this was like a dream of mine. It's what I wanted to do. And they were very supportive in kind of allowing me to essentially like transition into being a full-time athlete, um, which, yeah, just made the process a lot smoother, and gave me just it now gives me it now gives me time to recover. I think that's the main thing that I've realized, is that actually I now can spend my energy on my training, and then I can actually rest, and then kind of go again in the next training session. And I don't feel like I'm hanging around, like hanging on threads all the time. So yeah, it is nice, and I think I do have a lot of respect for people trying to like compete at the top level and working full time as well. It's not an easy thing to do. So I definitely, everyone out there who is doing that is, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
No, for sure. And yeah, hanging by threads, certainly not, the most optimal of conditions, that's for sure. And
No.
so I guess for you then, you talk about recovery and being able to focus on that a lot more. What does recovery look like for you these days? And, what are some things that maybe you've introduced or have changed?
So I've definitely introduced a lot more sleep. I didn't used to sleep a lot at all. I think compared to kind of what I can get now in terms of my sleep, it was just poles apart. So yeah, definitely have introduced napping, which is a brilliant tool. I love a nap. And yeah, just trying to make sure that I get good quality sleep. I think I've realized it's actually one of the most, if not the most important thing for recovery. And yeah, just making sure that I can kind of get in the fuel that I need as well, that I'm recovering well in terms of my food and my drink, and not kind of having to like grab something on the go as I was with work. Like it just, I can actually get back from a session, cook, eat it, relax, go for a nap, get up again, and then go run again. And I feel just a lot better than I was previously, when I was just basically trying to fit everything in when I could.
That's great to hear. Definitely. Yeah, it's nice to be able to take the time to do that. And it's so important to get these things in, definitely. And So I guess then, shortly after signing with Kip Run, you then kind of headed out for another race abroad, 5,000, you dropped a 15:20. Also around that time, you went under 9 minutes for the first time in the 3,000. Those are definitely kind of, significant times at that point. Were you surprised and how did you find them?
Um, I think I was confident that I could run a lot faster than I had run. And I think also then kind of making the change to go full time, I think often you can feel a bit nervous being like, I want to make sure that it was worth it doing that. Um, and so I think then when I kind of proved to myself that actually it was making a big difference and that I had run a lot faster, um, it just made me feel a lot better, knowing that kind of I was doing the right things and was kind of moving in the right direction. And those were two pretty big kind of points. Like a sub 15:30 for me was a goal, and it's like a sub 9 minutes was also a goal for me in the 3K. So to have done that, it was really good.
Yeah, definitely great achievements and things to be proud of. So it's great to hear that you felt that way, and also it kind of took some of the pressure off as well. And on the note of pressure, did you feel any pressure being taken on by a brand to keep performing and keep executing, or how did that impact you mentally?
Um, I actually weirdly I didn't feel pressure. I think that I think that probably I will at some point in my career. Like I think it'd be weird to say that I wouldn't feel pressure. Um, I think one of like they say that pressure is a privilege, and actually I do agree with that. I think the better you get, the more pressure you feel because you have got more to lose, essentially. But in terms of feeling pressure from going full time and feeling pressure from a brand, like Kip Run didn't pressure me at all. I didn't feel like that was. They were just more supportive. I think they had confidence I could run quicker. So did I, and we were just both like, "Yeah, this is going to happen." But it's kind of making sure I'm in the right race to do that. And yeah, so no, I didn't really. I probably will, and I definitely will in future. But no, for the moment, I feel like I didn't have that kind of element, which was really nice.
Definitely, and sign of a good brand, a good setup, and things going well for sure. And you also then kind of continued a couple of 5,000s, but come sort of June time, post June, you focused only on the 15s. And I mean, you bashed out some really quick times there. What was the reason for that change up? Was it planned, or talk us through that?
Yeah, I think it was planned. I didn't want to overdo the 5K distance. I'd been chasing times, I think, for quite a long period of the season with the 5K, and I didn't want to. I felt like I just needed a bit of a change. There was also the fact that I only ever run one 1500 before that. And I just thought, I think I know that I can run quicker. So that was like something to focus on. I also moved to, I got a new coach in July. Um, so I'm now coached by Andy Henderson, um, who is part of the like setup in Leeds with the university there, and coaches, obviously coaches me, coaches Alex Bell and Phil Sessman, and some really great athletes. And actually, I think having the confidence from him that he kind of knew that I could run a lot quicker in the 15 meant that we could both kind of focus on that and be like, look, that's a goal for the rest of the season. And yeah, he introduced a few things, not too much because he didn't want to kind of change too much too quickly. But it definitely helped me get that like a lot quicker in the 15, which was great.
And it showed for sure. That's great to hear. And so, how did that change come about then in terms of coaching setup?
So I think for I mean, since I started running, I had been with my club coach, who is an amazing man and was really supportive of me during that time. And I think it probably got to the point where we felt like there was kind of all that could have been done to kind of push me to the next level. And I also think just needed a bit more structure to my training, making sure that I was kind of doing all the right things and had a bit more of a kind of professional setup behind me, which has been massive, I think, in hopefully kind of just like improving what I'm doing. Getting in the gym, for example, doing all of that kind of thing has been really, really helpful. So, yeah, I think it was just time for a bit of a change. But no, it's been great so far. So I'm very happy.
Definitely, yeah. There's a time to sort of, end a chapter and move on to the next one. And it's knowing when to do that's important. And it's great to hear that you made those steps at a time that sounds like they were needed. And in terms of then those changes, maybe the more professional setup, what's changed in terms of your training and what now does a typical week of training look like for you?
So I think obviously I am currently in kind of a bit of a building back to fitness phase. Like everyone has their couple of weeks off in the summer to relax and reset, and I think that's definitely a really important thing to do for every kind of runner or athlete, no matter what sport it is, to be honest. So yeah, I've definitely kind of started doing some longer runs, a bit more mileage, given it's the winter. And actually, I think it's been really helpful for me, and hopefully going to push me on a bit this winter, which will be really nice. So yeah, I think at the moment, and a normal training week is about sitting around 83 to 85 miles a week.
Very precise.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, that's at the moment. It probably is going to change, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and yeah, do three sessions a week. Kind of slightly longer sessions now, which is quite nice. I mean, I can't say I enjoy them that much, but I've got to get used to them. So, yeah, it's all good stuff. But no, it's been great just having a bit more kind of structure to my weeks and making sure that I'm doing all the right things and just running a bit further.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, more miles on the legs kind of seems intuitive that would correlate to better running, faster running. And on that note, I mean, there's a couple of things. Firstly, you mentioned 3 sessions. A lot of people tend to stay around 2 now, so that's a bit different. And in terms of kind of 80 plus miles, how do you fit in that volume of running, logistically?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I'm very obviously because I'm very lucky that I can do this full time. It means that I do have the hours in the day to be able to do all that training. So I basically just it's a bit harder and fun because you have to drive everywhere to run, so it does take up quite a bit of time. But I wouldn't really be doing anything else, so it kind of makes a lot of sense. But yeah, no, when I'm back in London at home, I can basically just run out my front door, which is always a bit nicer. You just feel like you get back and you're fine instead of having to get in the car again. But no, it's been good. I also think that I've always done 3 sessions a week, so for me that's quite a natural thing to continue. One of those will always be a slightly kind of more tempo focused session. So I'm definitely kind of getting used to doing slightly easier session a week, which is important because you can't do 3 ridiculously hard sessions a week because you'd probably break. So
Yeah, I don't think any amount of naps would be enough to compensate for that.
no, I don't think so.
No, but I can see why the recovery's been very much needed and those naps have been very much needed because that sounds like a jam-packed week, definitely for sure. And in terms of you sort of talk about the sessions being a bit longer, have you got a particular session that you've found has been the worst so far, or maybe you've felt like, oh yeah, this is giving me a lot of benefit?
I mean, to be honest, I think the sessions that I found the worst have also given me a lot of benefit. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah, every session that I've done it in Font has been hard just purely because of the hills, and I think the altitude as well. Like this has been my first like actual stint at altitude, so it's taken my body a lot of time to get used to things and adjusting. So yeah, I have I have a 10-mile steady session which I've done out here, which has been very tough. But I know that it's done a lot of kind of good things for me. So I'm definitely going to carry it on, but it just hurts every time.
That's the main thing. As long as you know you're getting the benefit and it's working, then you can have peace of mind over that one. And so you mentioned this being your first stint to altitude. Obviously, that's a tool that runners are increasingly using. Talk us through the adaptations you've made, maybe some of the initial thoughts that you've had or challenges you've encountered with that.
So I think this is all a bit of a kind of trial for me because obviously it being my first time, I'm not really sure how I'm going to respond. It like training seems to have been going very well out here, but you just never know kind of how that's going to translate when you get back. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how I respond when I get back. But yeah, in terms of being out here, I've just had to I think not overthinking things being hard. At the start, I was like, God, this does feel difficult, but actually, it's always going to. I mean, some people might find they're absolutely fine, which is brilliant for them, but I am not one of those people. So, yeah, it was hard, but yeah, just making sure that I didn't kind of go like try and run like I normally run at back in London because it's just not the same. So yeah, making sure that I'm not running too quickly in sessions as well. Like the sessions need to be kind of more suited to running at 1800 meters. So yeah, there's been a few things. Making sure I'm hydrated as well. That's a huge thing of being here. So I've been drinking a lot. Obviously not drinking a lot, drinking a lot of good stuff. But no, it's been fine, to be honest.
No, that's really cool to hear. And yeah, definitely, I guess it's quite exciting because you don't get to reap the full rewards of it until you get back to normal level and then kind of do a race and see how it goes. On that note, do you have anything sort of planned as a first race back from altitude or anything like that?
So I think I'm going to do a bit of cross country, which should be fun. There's quite a few people doing. There's like the national relay at Mansfield, which I did last year, and we actually won. Belgrave team. It was me and the Aston sisters, which was it was a really fun day. And I'll probably go back and do that again with them. But yeah, then apart from that, probably just working into Liverpool Cross as kind of a main goal. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. So it should be fun.
Nice. Yeah, relays definitely hit different in a positive way, and that does sound like a team to beat. Warning to anyone else competing.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun.
Okay, and so I guess if we sort of talk about maybe the future and moving forwards a little bit, have you got any specific ambitions maybe for the upcoming year and maybe say even the next 5 years?
I think in the next year, I definitely want to kind of break that 15-minute barrier for 5K. I think that's something that would be a real achievement and hopefully something that I'm capable of. So yeah, that's definitely a big kind of goal. But yeah, I think honestly just trying to kind of get a representation of some sort, if that's cross or if that's on the track. I think getting to a major champs would be kind of a real big kind of step up, which I'd love to make and hopefully will if it all kind of keeps going in the right direction, which it has been. So yeah, hopefully that'll be something that comes to fruition next year.
That'd be great to see. And for sure, you're running the times and kind of positions needed to do those things. And I guess that is one of the things about running. It's so hard to get into major championships because there's so few opportunities that even when you're at that level, it's still kind of like you'd assume an athlete of your level would have been to, several major championships. So
Yeah, it's always so competitive, but to be honest, I think it's a really good thing that distance running in the UK is at the level that it is, and the competition, I mean, to be honest, like, it just makes you better. If people are running quicker, you have to find ways to run quicker. And even if, I mean, to be honest, even if you just look at the British champs this year, the women's 5K, the times that, I mean, obviously, champs racing is always, it can always be a bit different. It can go one way and it can be faster, it could be tactical and slow. But yeah, I think the fact that there were so many women there running some really impressive times, it just shows that actually we're kind of coming forward as a group, and that's really exciting because then you just spur each other on, and it's kind of good, like, healthy competition as well.
Yeah, it's great to see how well women's running is doing in this country. And it is one of those things where so many people are, it's kind of like if you're in a different country, you probably be their number one or repping them at everything. But oh no, sorry, you're in Great Britain. So no, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, that's basically it. But no, it's good. It makes it all worth it though when you do get those moments. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If it's harder to get there, it means more when you get there. So there's those benefits. And one thing that's interesting is you haven't done loads of road racing and you haven't really ventured above the 5K distance despite having, some serious caliber there. Are you potentially looking to turn to the roads at some point or try any distances beyond the 5K, or where do you think your strengths lie?
Uh, I think, to be honest, I won't be looking to go onto the roads. I mean, I might do a few road races this year. I'm sure there'll be a 5K road race in there somewhere. But I haven't really planned that far ahead in terms of that. I think I'm more kind of focusing on the track, and I think I enjoy the track the most, and that's where I get probably the most out of myself. So I don't want to kind of make a move to something else when I feel like I've got quite a lot of, like, unfinished, it sounds so cliche, but like unfinished business on the track. So yeah, I'll probably stick with that. I think it'll be a season of doing a lot more kind of 1500 to 5 to 3K, 5K races, and actually trying to chip those times down more. And yeah, I think to be honest, it's just what I enjoy. Like, there will be a time where I'll go up in distance and I'll look at doing kind of more 10Ks, and I mean, maybe a half marathon. I mean, I can't even think that far ahead at the moment, but also don't want to. But yeah, no, I think for the moment I'll just be sitting tight with the 1500, 3K and 5K for sure.
Yeah, no, they seem nice. I feel like once you do go beyond the 5K, that's a substantial amount of time running, and a half marathon, my goodness, like
Yeah, I have serious respect for the marathon and half marathon runners out there. But yeah, no, it's not my journey right now. I'm sure it will be at some point, but not right now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And in terms of kind of, I guess, overall reflections, of course, you've had a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes in terms of your running setup over the last year. But if you have to sort of maybe choose something kind of from within yourself, maybe mentality or maybe a specific training intervention, what do you think's been the most beneficial change you've made, or some of the changes you've made that have helped you have this level of success this year?
I think mentality wise, I've probably changed my mind of in terms of, like, I give everyone I'm racing respect, but not too much respect. So I think there's a level where you can kind of talk yourself out of a race. And I've made sure, like, never to do that, which I think has probably helped me just kind of push on in some of the races I've been in and not be too afraid of, like, who else is running. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that I've kind of made sure I've kept on mentality wise. Um, and then, to be honest, training wise, I think honestly having a bit more of a structured week, like before the summer, I would often do a lot of what I thought was the best thing to do. And I think, coming from a background that isn't in distance running, that was often quite challenging. So I think from going from that to now having a bit more structure, a bit more of a plan, kind of having the help of an S&C kind of program, and all of that will just be, there's just a few things that will hopefully kind of help me push on that I haven't been doing previously. So
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And have you got any examples of something that maybe old Kate thought was a good idea that maybe new Kate doesn't do anymore?
um honestly, I just think like the day before races I used to do like way too much. And I used to kind of think that like that was really good in getting me kind of primed for racing. And now I look back on it and I think, what on earth were you doing? Like, just chill, just chill. So yeah, that's definitely something that like Hendo's helped me with a lot, is just actually like knowing how to taper into a race and not being stupid. So yeah, that's definitely something that new Kate won't be doing, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Tapering is a challenging business, and definitely, I think a lot of people when they're new to running don't necessarily realize how much you maybe need to ease off or kind of drop things off before a race. And on that note, do you have a pre-race routine or anything in particular you like to do the day before a race?
The day before a race, to be honest, I just like try and go through the process that I would do on the day that I race. So make sure that kind of I'm doing similar things. I've kind of done all my drills. I'm feeling ready, like stretching, all those kind of things. And yeah, and then just making sure I've got a really good playlist for my race day. That's always the thing that gets me going. And I'm like, as long as I've got that, I can put my headphones in and then I'm in the zone. And yeah, that's definitely the thing that helps me to kind of like get ready to race.
Oh yeah, playlists are essential. Have you got a good song at the moment?
What is my song at the moment? Oh, you know what? I'm loving, I'm really loving a lot of Chapel Roan. So that's not everyone. I think she's like a love hate, but I'm really in the love category. So she's like good feminist vibes that I've just got in my ears. And I'm like, yeah, I feel ready.
Awesome. Well, if she powers you to great things, then got to send the love in that direction, really.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, and I guess as well, some in terms of kind of, you're obviously a successful athlete. As an athlete, you had a successful hockey career, you're successful now in running. What do you think makes you, one, a successful athlete, and two, a successful runner?
Um, I think like resilience is probably one of the main things that makes you successful. Whether as a hockey player or like now as a runner, I think just you're gonna have bad days. It's just part of sport. There are going to be things that don't always go according to plan, and I think if you know how to deal with those, it's one of the most useful skills that you can have. Um, yeah, like whether that's you have a support network that you know that you need to lean on or talk to or do that you know is going to basically help you feel better. But I do think the ability to kind of pick yourself back up after things don't go well is a real skill to be like a successful athlete.
Yeah, no, that's great advice there. So yeah, definitely take that on board. And for sure, if you can minimize the time between, I suppose, the instant of disaster or that negative event and getting back on track, you save yourself a lot of time in terms of mental fatigue and also time that you could be doing something more productive with as well. And it seems that your season or your past year has been pretty smooth, but have there been any major challenges or any difficulties along the way?
I think, I mean, luckily, I always touch wood. Luckily, I've been kind of injury free this season, which has definitely obviously helped me to kind of just keep everything going in the right direction. But yeah, I think there are always challenges. I unfortunately lost a friend of earlier, like in the year, or actually the beginning of last year. So I think there's always things that you kind of know are going on in the background, but you know that not everybody will know because it's whether you choose to share it or not. But yeah, just kind of having to manage, I guess, grief alongside trying to run and trying to kind of make it in as a professional runner has been a challenge of this year, but it's one that I think I've learned a lot from, and is definitely kind of, yeah, it just makes you more you appreciate kind of what you're doing more, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear about that. And, these things are always really difficult to deal with and take a lot mentally, but it's good to hear that you've navigated it kind of to the best that it could have been by the sounds of things. And before we kind of move on to the wrap up, let's kind of touch on the female specific side of things. For you, is there any female specific challenge, such as maybe periods, low iron, that you found impacted you the most, or something that you have an ongoing kind of situation with?
So I think I've never suffered with low iron, which I'm quite lucky with. But yeah, I think that I mean periods are such a like limiting factor, and I think that we kind of realize it as women, but actually don't give ourselves the time of day for it, as and we kind of just crack on anyway, is what I can assume. And I think a lot of other runners and other athletes that I've spoken to have just said, yeah, like I know I'm on my period and I know I feel a bit rubbish, but I kind of just have to get on with it anyway. So I think it's definitely something that you have to take notice of. And if you are feeling a bit rubbish, that I do sometimes feel, it's just making sure that you communicate that with like your coach or whoever you're with, or maybe it's a training partner. You just say, look, I'm feeling a bit rubbish today because it's my time of the month and I'm on my period. And I think that that's definitely it's definitely got something that like women can talk about that more openly, I feel like now, than maybe they could a couple of years ago. So I feel like that's a really positive thing. And like I try and talk about it quite openly with people I'm with, because then it kind of encourages them to be like, oh right, yeah, like I'm also feeling rubbish because I'm also on my period. And you're like, oh right, okay, well we're all syncing up here, so this is quite funny. But yeah, it's definitely something that I would like, I'm comfortable talking about, but it's just important to realize that it can impact your performance.
Yeah, you make a great point there, kind of giving that recognition to it that it deserves it. It definitely is a reason, not an excuse in this situation. And yeah, the sync up with people you're around is definitely very real.
Yeah, it is. I'm living with a boy, so it'd be a bit worrying if I synced up with him. But yeah, no, I think like the other girls who are out here, we're both just like, oh gosh, it's that time. But no, it's all good.
Yeah, always easier together than alone to deal with these things. And I guess while we're on the note of periods as well, the menstrual cycle, compared to hockey, how do you find it impacts your running performance?
Um, I think I think it's quite similar. I think I maybe didn't realize it as much with hockey because it's not so much of a measurable thing. Like with running, I know that if I'm running a lot slower in a session and I'm on my period, I can kind of like attach the two and be like, oh, that's probably why. Whereas with hockey, you might you might be running slower, but it's harder to notice. So you might just be like, oh, okay, well, I was a bit rubbish today, but actually was that because I just was a bit rubbish today with hockey, or I like couldn't do that skill, or I didn't score many goals. Whereas, yeah, with running, you could be like, okay, well, I was running 5 seconds slower than I usually do. So that it's definitely easier to tell the impact on your performance with running rather than hockey.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and yeah, that's interesting to hear that the effects are probably quite similar in terms of how they feel then to you as an athlete. And also, I guess fueling is another topic that's kind of can cause some challenges for anyone really. But being, I guess, a bit more new to the running scene, how have you found making sure you get the right stuff in and kind of learning about nutrition on the way?
I mean, to be honest, I think I found it fine because I was taught a lot, and we had a nutritionist with when I was playing hockey. So I think I've just kind of carried in those lessons from playing elite sport, given it's a different sport, and tried to kind of carry those things across to running. I think I'm aware that now I kind of increase my mileage. I've had to make sure that I'm increasing my fueling as well, and that I'm kind of making sure I'm getting in enough fats and stuff like that to make sure that I'm kind of still healthy, and I don't kind of put myself at any risk to injuries. But yeah, that said, I to be honest, I think the running space is hard in terms of you're constantly having like pictures taken of you, always probably wearing minimal clothing, and I think that's something that I've had to get used to, and has certainly been a change from hockey. Is I'm like, okay, now I'm obviously like a lot of me is on show, and I'm used to kind of being in like my thighs just being on show in a hockey game. So yeah, that's definitely taken time to just get comfortable with. But I think I haven't changed like my fueling because of that, and I never would. But it's definitely like a mental barrier that you have to get over.
No, I think it's great you mentioned that, especially kind of at this time, because the emphasis on media and images and photos within the sport seems to be absolutely skyrocketing to the point where, people really are thinking about this. People really are clocking camera positions in races and things like that. And, of course it is sort of, it can be very minimal on the clothing side. And, women's bodies, a healthy female body can look such a range of different shapes and sizes, some of which don't necessarily fit societal norms or societal sporting norms. So have you had any, I guess, thoughts around ways that the sports impacted you more negatively in that aspect?
Um, I think it's just you just have to see that actually there are so many different types of like female athletic bodies, like, and actually I think it's been helpful to go to meets that are abroad, and you see the sprinters and you see the high jumpers and you see the distance runners and like the shot putters, and you just realize that like everyone is going to look different, and that is very natural. But it's just like you just have to realize that actually like there's no one size fits all. Like it just doesn't work like that. I also think that I always pick out Elle St. Pierre because I just think she is the most phenomenal athlete. And if you put her next to Kip Yegon or a Kenyan runner, they're doing the same distance. They're both equally as impressive athletes, and they look totally different. And I just think that as soon as you kind of realize that actually the way you look has nothing to do with the performance that you're going to put out, like as soon as you realize that, it just makes that worry go away. So yeah, it's definitely been helpful to just kind of like see more varied athletes in the athletic world and just be like, look, everyone looks different. It's just the way it is. As long as you're healthy, it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's definitely something that I just keep like in my mind when I see a bad photo. I'm like, God, that angle is horrific, which it is because I do not look good when I run. It's just the way it is. So yeah, I think like once you kind of realize that, you're just like, you know what, it's just not that deep.
No, I love that. And I think you look good when you run, but it is very real that camera angles can absolutely distort. And,
Yeah.
some people just don't get on well with the camera for whatever reason.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you're just like, oh, you didn't need to take it from there. But yeah, it's just part and parcel of the sport. It's quite funny to look at them and be like, oh God, that one was bad, but that one was all right. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But representation is so important. And like you say, the more people embrace their natural shape or their natural body, then the more that gets seen, and the more it gets seen, the more comfortable others feel to kind of lean into themselves more, I guess. And while we're sort of talking around the subject of, I guess, media attention and imagery and stuff in the sport, do you have any other thoughts on kind of maybe ways that it perhaps could be different, or things that you'd like to see as a top athlete?
I think I think just making sure that brands make clothing that is comfortable for females. I think that's been like you can see it, and you can see it at all levels, but there's a lot of times where you're like, gosh, like that's really uncomfortable. Like I don't really want to wear this vest or these pants. I'd rather wear shorts, or I'd rather wear a speed suit. Or you're like, God, that speed suit is very kind of like up. It's showing a lot. So I think that that's definitely a work on for all brands, is just being like talking to their female athletes and being like, look, what do you feel comfortable to run in? And if that's a little like something super skimpy, perfect. That's what they want. But if someone else feels like they'd be more comfortable in, I don't know, a vest and some like longer shorts, then actually like I feel like that's definitely something that probably needs to be like more focused on a bit more by brands, is just making sure that their female athletes feel comfortable in what they train and race in.
Yeah, definitely. I think you make a great point there because yeah, different shapes require different fabric arrangements to get the same levels of coverage. And on that note as well, do you feel any pressure as you become more elite to lean towards maybe certain designs and styles of outfits when you're racing?
Not really. I think I just like for me, I like for example, I know that I prefer racing in like race pants rather than shorts because I feel I get more freedom. But then like I like wearing a vest because I don't like my midriff being on show all the time. But so like to be honest, it's just kind of whatever I feel like on the day, I'll probably just go for. But like sometimes you're just like, oh God, I really just I just don't want to wear like a vest, or I would rather wear shorts or whatever. But no, I don't feel like any pressure to race in something specific. I think I just always go with like what I feel most comfortable in. So yeah, that's actually been like totally fine for me recently, which is quite nice.
No, that's great and definitely the way to go. You know, whatever you feel most comfortable in as is always the right thing to race in. And while we're sort of talking around clothing, in terms of sports bras, do you have any particular thoughts on kind of maybe the lack of evolution of sports bras or lack of attention they seem to get in comparison to other pieces of clothing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worn so many sports bras like across the hockey and um like now running as well. And I think that there's such a fine margin between like support and then honestly just feeling like you're being suffocated. Um so and I do recognize that it's really hard to put out a sports bra and be like, this is going to be perfect for everyone, because it's not. But yeah, I think it's just like, for example, I have quite a big rib cage. So I always find that a tight, like underband is really uncomfortable. But then don't have I don't have much up top. So I'm like, actually, I need a smaller size. So yeah, it definitely it's just a hard balance. But again, like I think it comes back to making sure that brands who are making sports bras are talking to their athletes and being like, what makes you feel comfortable? Like, what kind of material do you prefer? But yeah, I mean, like I'm a big believer in like I want to if I look good and feel good, then I'll race well. So yeah, I always want to make sure that like even if it's comfortable, like it looks nice. Like I love a nice design. I'm a sucker for that, as I'm sure most people are. But yeah, it's just kind of making sure that you actually get your feelings across and be like, look, this is not comfortable, or I think we'd prefer to have like a slightly looser one, or whatever it is. It's just making sure that you communicate that, and hopefully I think brands will start taking a bit more notice to be like, okay, we should probably do something here and like help people out.
Yeah, definitely. And there is so much variety, so it is different. And yeah, I definitely feel you there with the big ribcage
Yeah,
situation.
I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, it really can be sort of like suffocating for sure. And do you have a favorite style of sports bra?
I don't think I do, to be honest. I have just like weird ones that I like, and I might have had them for like 10 years and they're still in the rotation. I'm like, I don't know why this random one from, I think it's actually from Decathlon, which is quite funny. It just comes, but like they're just the weird ones that you're like, okay, I really like this one. I don't know why I like it and it's falling apart, but I'm still going to wear it. So yeah, probably the ones from like 10 years ago that I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're still comfortable 10 years later. I'm still going to wear you. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like clothing quality has in general declined over the years. I know I always race in my M&S bra from like, well, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's a classic. If it works, it works.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, and so to kind of move things to the close now, what excites you most about the upcoming season?
I think seeing how I get on with my like first stint here at altitude, I think it's gonna have hopefully made a positive difference, and I think I'm excited to then take the learnings from that and hopefully then use it again later in the season and do another kind of stint, and hopefully then kind of use that more into a specific race that I'm targeting or something like that. I think that'll be exciting.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be really cool to see how that goes for you. And if you got one race this year that you're like, I really want to do that race, maybe one you didn't do last year.
I'd really like to do an on-track night. I think I've seen, like, there's been the opportunity for me to do a few, but it just hasn't quite worked this season. And I think, yeah, if I did that, I mean, maybe night of the 10Ks. I said I wouldn't do the 10K, but I was like, you know what? I love the track. And if I'm ever going to do like a 10K this season, I'd want to do it on the track. So yeah, maybe that.
Have to say that event did look incredible.
Yeah.
And for you, favorite pastime in font now that you're a font runner?
My pastime, probably cooking. I really enjoy cooking. I think it just, like, for me, it helps me to switch off and focus on something else. And yeah, like, minus the pizzas I've had, which have been phenomenal. I have been, yeah, cooking a lot. So I made a lasagna the other day, which I was quite proud of. So yeah, just like stuff like that, I just quite enjoy outside of the running.
Definitely the therapeutic value of chopping really cannot be
Mhm.
overstated enough, understated enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And what's your favorite place that you visited recently?
Favorite place I've visited recently? Probably Paris during the Olympics. That was it was I mean, I have been to Paris before, but it was when I was a lot younger, and actually going back and like having that excitement around the Olympics and like seeing people that I'd run with and that I knew competing, it was just really special. So I think definitely that was kind of my favorite place that I've been recently.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And yeah, I can imagine the atmosphere would have been incredible there as well. And finally, last question, 5 things you couldn't live without.
5 things I couldn't live without. Oh my gosh. Um, oh, this is hard, right? Probably my, like, oh, this is so boring, but my water bottle. Um, take that everywhere. Probably more specific would be I've got like one of those Stanley cups, you know, the big, just stupidly big. Like, you search it up, you'll understand what I mean. But yeah, that's like another extension of my arm. So definitely that. Probably what else can I live without? My slippers, that's another thing. I bought myself a new fresh pair from the Intermarché in Font, which I think are now one of my favorite things in the world. So they're coming home with me. Um,
Lovely.
yeah. Oh, another
So
thing I
you're
couldn't live without.
hydrated and walking on clouds.
Exactly. Yeah. What coffee, can live without coffee. It probably sounds really boring to say it, but I drink so much. And I just, yeah, I love a good coffee. So that, what else? What else can I, my bed. Um, like, after talking about those naps, I feel like now I can't. I need my sleep. I love just getting into bed and just being like, right, it's the end of the day, nothing else to do. Here we go. And then yeah, what's another one? Probably my sunglasses. I love my sunnies. Always wear my sunnies. So yeah, that's 5 things.
No, that sounds great. Sounds like some good essentials there, and always gotta love a pair of sunglasses for sure. So
Yeah.
well, no, thank you so much for rejoining, and it's been great to catch up and see that your experience has been just as positive as kind of your race results have looked on paper. So yeah, it sounds like exciting stuff to come.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited for this year, and I think hopefully you'll see some more faster times, which would be brilliant.
Well, I have all my fingers and toes crossed for you. So
Thanks.
no, thank you so much. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.